Hello students, good afternoon. Hope you are keeping well and taking care of your health. This shall be the last lecture on Paradise Lost Book 1. Till now, in the series of lectures on Paradise Lost, we have seen the plot and the themes that are represented in Paradise Lost by John Milton. Today, in this lecture, we will be discussing about the important characters that are there in Book 1. Of course, there are a lot of characters in Paradise Lost, including all the 12 books. But here, since our discussion is restricted to Book 1, I shall be speaking about the characters that are represented here. So you have already studied all the lines from 1 to line number 798 in Paradise Lost, and one striking character that is seen to be dominant, to be powerful throughout Book 1 is Satan. As I said before, it seems as if John Milton is trying to glorify Satan, but that happens only in Book 1 and not in the whole epic of Paradise Lost. Throughout these lines of Book 1, we see that it is Satan who is extremely powerful, extremely articulate, he is bold and assertive throughout this story. So let us now look at certain important traits in the character of Satan. By now you have already come to know how is Satan, but just let us list what are his prominent characteristic traits. The first important trait of Satan is that Satan's evil nature is inherent. Here, the word inherent, there is another character which is famously known for the inherent evil nature, and that is Iago in Shakespeare's play Othello. In the same way, Satan here in Paradise Lost is evil by nature. He is inherently evil, and his evil actions and the revenge against God, the rebellious nature, is not directed by any external force. He is like that from the beginning till the end. So it is a kind of flat character. Satan does not change right from the beginning even to the end. His nature itself is that of evil one. How he plans to destroy God's creations, how he plans to war against God, how he tries to find out evil out of the good work done by God, and how he clearly speaks out that to do ill shall be always our duty to his fellow angels. These lines show that Satan is inherently an evil character. So, inherent evil nature is the most important trait in Satan's character. The next important trait that we find in Satan is that he is extremely assertive and dominating. He is not a hypocrite. He clearly asserts. That means he gives clear indications that what is he going to do later. He is extremely assertive about his actions, that he is going to wage war against God with or without the support of the fallen angels is confirmed. He is bent upon doing that and clearly speaks out his intentions almost throughout Book 1. And The other nature of Satan is that he is extremely dominating one. He dominates over all the other fallen angels, and it is only on the command of Satan all the evil angels gather at the shore of the burning lake in hell to have a meeting with Satan. That is how we see Satan is the dominant force in hell. The next trait, of course, I have already explained to you the lines which show these characters in Satan. So you may justify the traits, these particular traits of Satan, taking some references from the lines of book 1. The next feature of Satan is that he is jealous. And his jealousy is seen at many moments when he declares to Beelzebub that he is not happy with his position in hell. He is jealous of that sovereign God who is ruling as if he is the monarch of heaven. He wants to get that position back from God by force or by fraud. He is extremely jealous that God and the good angels are enjoying all the privileges of heaven, and he and his followers have been put in the dark, ignorant hell. He is jealous of the seat of God. He is also jealous of the creative power of God. This is indirectly mentioned when he speaks out to his fellow angel that God is creating humans and God is creating the earth. Our motive is to destroy God's creation. So that also shows that since Satan is not creative enough, he is bent upon destroying because he is jealous of someone who is creating something good. And since he cannot create good, he wants to destroy the goodness done by others as well. So this shows the jealousy that's there in the mind of Satan, which is prominently seen throughout book 1, especially in the beginning part of book 1. The next trait that you find is his hunger for power. He wants to be a dominant ruler wherever he goes. Even though he is now put in the hell, even though he has lost the war that was an impious war against God, he wants to hold back the position of kingship, and he is hungry for that. He summons all the fellow angels to summon. Why does he summon them? Why does he call them? He calls them to show that he is most powerful among all of them. He is the first one who is able to gather his own power and come out of that burning lake, which shows that he is powerful and he is hungry for more and more power. And this hunger for power also leads him to plan strategies against God. By hook or crook, he wants to gain the possession of power. Creation of Pandemonium, which is nothing but the palace of Satan, also shows how he is hungry for power. Power means establishing an empire, and an empire needs a palace which will be respected by the whole empire. And Pandemonium is such a center of power for Satan. The lines, "Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven," and Satan's next dialogue that he hates servitude, clearly show how he wants to ascertain the position of a ruler. He is not happy with God ruling in the heaven. He wants to be ruler in heaven as well. This is how we see that he is extremely hungry for power. The next important trait that we find in Satan, which stands out very prominently throughout book 1 and throughout many other books as well, is that he is a wonderful orator. He is known for flattering speeches. He can manipulate the minds of the people who come in his contact. First, he manipulates, or he tries to motivate his fellow fallen angels who come and assemble together to form an army for Satan. Thus, he proves to be a great orator in hell in the beginning. Later in book number 9, when the story reaches its climax, when the original sin takes place, it is Satan who flatters Eve and tempts her to eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge. That's how oratory is a gift given to Satan's character by John Milton. We see that the speeches given by Satan, delivered by Satan in hell, are extremely powerful. They are worthy of quoting in the usual life as well. So that is how maybe John Milton wanted to focus on the fact that oratory was important for a human being. Oratory, or the skill of public speaking, can influence a lot of people, can manipulate a lot of people, can even flatter a lot of people in the times of need. That is how, being a wonderful, powerful and impressive orator, Satan influences his followers and is able to build up his own army to fight against God. And this is an achievement done by Satan only because of his public speaking skills. So in one way, we can also take the example of Satan for wonderful communication. Next, and the last important trait that I found out in Satan is that he is a crooked person. He does not know good ways at all. His inherent evil nature tempts him to follow the ways of cheating and fraud as well. When he makes his statements that he wants to fight war against God once again, these wars may be direct by force or by guile. The word guile shows that he is ready to even fall to the methods of frauding and cheating as well. So his evil nature leads him to be a cheater, a manipulator and a fraudster as well. So these are some of the important characteristic traits I found out in Satan, especially in book 1. There are other characters. Satan is ambitious. Satan is explorative. We find these traits in Satan in the upcoming books, when he explores the space in order to find out where is Earth. We see his skills as an explorer. So these are some of the traits of Satan's character, which is the most important character shown in book 1. Then we will look at the other important characters. Of course, these are not as important as Satan in book 1. He is the only ruler of the plot in book 1. The other characters that are present or that are mentioned by John Milton are God, Beelzebub, Moloch, Belial, Mammon, Mulciber, Ashtoreth, Baalim and so many other fallen angels. What about the character of God here? In the storyline of book 1, we don't find God anywhere taking active place. Thus, he is an absent character in book 1. But he is mentioned, or his grace and benevolence is mentioned by John Milton time and again in book 1. John Milton praises the omnipresence, omniscience and goodness of God. God is shown to be the absolute monarch of heaven. God does not tolerate rebellious behavior. That is why he throws all the fallen angels or the evil angels out of heaven. That is how God is the representation of goodness and light according to John Milton, and his grace is praised by John Milton time and again, especially when there are some lines wherein there are descriptions of the fallen angels. The fallen angels, although they are now in hell, with the grace of God, they will be worshipped in the later times in different places of Europe and the Middle East countries, according to the biblical story that follows later. So that is how he has tried to show the providence of God. In the invocation, we find the presence of God and God's grace. Rather, he prays for God's blessings on him. That is how, in book 1, although God is absent, he is not an active role player in book 1. We see that his presence is there through his through his grace and benevolence and his omniscience. The next important character is Beelzebub. Who is Beelzebub? Beelzebub is the one who is next in command to Satan. He is like an assistant to Satan. His role is to support Satan in whatever action Satan Satan undertakes. He is a listener, the first listener to Satan's speeches, and he is the one who helps Satan in awakening all the other fallen angels in the hell. Thereby, he plays the role of assistant very well. The next characters are those fallen angels whom John Milton describes in about 100 lines in the middle of book 1. Moloch is a fallen angel, Moloch. He is an army man. He is a general in Satan's army and is known for his militaristic power. He is an authoritarian military angel, now in support of Satan. Next fallen angel that is described is Belial, who represents a part of all the other fallen angels who secretly wished that God would take them back in heaven once again. So somewhere Belial is hopeful that he will gain position in heaven once again. Next is Mammon. Mammon is another leader among the evil angels. He thinks that the fallen angels must build their empire in hell so as to make their life comfortable and bearable in hell as well. And that is why he motivates his followers to start the digging work in order to bring out lot of wealth from the underground, with which they can build their temple Pandemonium. So thus he is also a leading angel. Then it is the description of Mulciber which is important. Mulciber is the chief architect who has helped Satan in building the temple Pandemonium. He is also a fallen angel. That is how various fallen angels have been described by John Milton, but the most important character remains is Satan and none other. So that is all about the analysis of characters in book 1. Now I would like to throw light upon the narrative aspect and the setting of the poem, and then close the discussion on Paradise Lost. How is the setting of the poem? See, the setting is important because we have to place a story, we have to place an action in some context, in some place. The story must happen in some place. John Milton has followed epic convention of using the setting in a very vast way. For example, there is this convention. If you see even the Indian epics, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and even the other Greek epics, the place in which the story takes place is huge in its magnitude. It does not happen in just one country or one small town. It happens over land, over sea, in the sky, above, in the heaven, in the hell. This is an epic convention used extensively by John Milton throughout Paradise Lost. The story happens in hell. The story also takes place in heaven, in chaos, in darkness, in empty space, in paradise, that is earth, and so many other places which are huge in their magnitude. But in book 1, almost the whole story happens in hell. And to give this setting, John Milton has used lots of lines to describe how is the place in hell, which is full of burning lakes, where there are fumes of sulfur, there are hills of darkness, and many other descriptions which are horrific, and they represent hell. So the story in book 1 has the setting of hell. Coming to the narrative aspect of the poem, this poem and book 1 is written from the third person point of view. John Milton himself becomes the narrator. And how do we come to know that John Milton is the narrator when there are speeches of Satan, Beelzebub and the other angels? How do we understand this? We understand this because of the invocation and the introduction that John Milton gives in the beginning of book 1 itself. Thereby we can conclude that John Milton is the narrator. He is the omniscient narrator. Now what is this omniscient narrator? I have already explained in brief. Omniscient narrator is the one who knows the story much before it happens in reality. Like Valmiki, Maharshi Valmiki wrote the story of Ramayana much before it happened, and he also wrote what is going to happen later. So he knew the whole story in the beginning itself. Like this, even John Milton knows what is going to happen in the future, what has happened in the past, and what is going to happen right now in books of Paradise Lost. That is how John Milton is an omniscient narrator who narrates the whole epic in third person perspective. In between, there are dialogues added to create an interest and to show the power of other characters as well. But the general structure of the poem, if we look at, then it is the third person narrative which John Milton employs in Paradise Lost. So here I would like to close my discussion on the epic Paradise Lost and its part, book number 1. Thank you so much. Have a good day.